Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
The Monday, September 20th, 2021 morning of the meeting of the East Lampeter Township Board of Supervisors. Our chairman, Corey Meyer, is out this evening, so as vice chair, I'll be chairing the meeting. There are no members on Zoom. Those of us present in the room represent a quorum. Tara, any other issues with Zoom? Ready to go? Okay, good. Awesome. That's great. Okay, if you would please rise and join me in pledging to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we begin our meetings the past 2 years with public comment at the beginning. Public comment for any non-agenda items only. There are items on the agenda. We will certainly have time for public comment while we cover those items. So is there anyone here for public comment for non-agenda items? All right, seeing none. Okay, we'll proceed through the agenda then. Item number 4 is our consent agenda.
Appropriate time to do that.
Okay, so right now?
Yes, yep, if you would, if you have, yep, please come up to the mic if you would. You're going to need to speak directly into that mic so they can pick you up on the Zoom meeting. Just introduce yourself, your name, your address, and then you can certainly speak to the board.
Okay, good. Well, I'm Dr. Mark Rogers, and I'm the owner of the chiropractor, at 1770 North Philadelphia Park. And I'm here tonight to discuss, I guess it was an ordinance that was passed at the last meeting restricting parking on both sides of our properties. And I want to share with you our position on this. This is totally surprise to us. Totally not knowing that this was happening, we was even a discussion about this. And I was wondering where this even came from or where it even got started. I looked at the minutes in July. I saw that there were 4 neighborhood neighbors that complained, or I guess was with me on Zoom about this. And I guess it was their complaints that all of a sudden there's no parking signs. So I guess my question is, and I'm a little bit curious because the minutes indicated that the township official was working on this parking issue that's been going on for a while. So I'm not aware of a parking issue. Been there 7 years, and we were never notified of that meeting. And the neighbors have not been happy with this since day one. 7 years ago, we built that office. We complied with everything. Everything. We moved moved from out of practice 25 years ago on Highland Drive in 340 and moved down to that new location. And when we moved to our location, our practices took off. We did not change our staffing at all. We thought we had plenty of parking. The old location, the new location, we tripled our parking, tripled. And then when we moved to the new location, all of a sudden it's like 6 months or a year. What are we going to do? Can't talk to Tara back then, not long ago. What can we do? Can we build a bigger parking lot? Well, and I was told that, well, yeah, I guess the parking lot that we did was a permeable asphalt, and that's no longer allowed in the township. And so I was looking at them doing stormwater management. I was looking at like hundreds of thousands of dollars just for like 10 parking spots. So I said, well, that's not worth it. I talked to Cedar Acres to see if I could rent space to them. I talked to the hotel across the street to see if they could rent a space. I talked to other townhouses across the street to see if they would rent a space. We don't want to go to the street. Okay? And as a chiropractor, as you probably understand, two people back pain. You never had back pain. You don't move too long. I want to be able to carry people in their cars. So we decided, because during our peak time of the day, it would be safer for us to park on the street than our patients. But they're going to be moving a lot slower. Our patient encounters in our office anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, so it's coming and going all day long on the street. So we decided we would park our cars there so that it would be safer. Literally, we don't want our cars on the street. We have nice cars. I don't want people running into my car, but we felt as though that was the best thing. 3 cars, maximum 4 is that we went out there. So 3 doctors and 1 of our assistants. So we did those cars. Since day one, the neighbors have been on us. When they were doing the construction on the parking lot, they had to move off their offices, park the truck on the street, and they were calling down here complaining that E.G. Stoltz is parking on the street. You know, it's like, come on, how does it break? You know, I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's not. And then they come down here last time and say, oh, this is an issue of safety. And I'll say it's an issue of convenience. They don't like us parking there. It's sad. I wish the people would come talk to me. I'm reasonable. In the morning, when they want to drive, if they want to park in my parking lot while their kids are getting on the bus, go ahead. I told the neighbors on the weekends, when you're having parties and you're having guests over, you just want to park in the lot. I don't care. I mean, God gave it, He can take it away. What's that? I didn't give it. But so I'm just asking, you know, for a solution. If something can be done, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't understand how. Is it all right if I show a poster?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. That's a picture's done. Because I don't know what was presented in the last meeting. I didn't realize it was videotaped. But this is an aerial shot of the office here. Okay. And this is our office. This is high view, and this is Crestline. Okay. This is where we park. Now, I understand the state of Pennsylvania. You're not supposed to park within 30 of a stop sign or intersection or something. Okay.
Can't confirm the distance, but there are certainly distance requirements.
Yeah, I think a railroad. Okay. Do you know what 50 feet is on here? That tree, center of that tree, 51 feet. Center of that tree. 48 feet. We never find past that. Ever in 7 years. You know why? You know what the tree limbs come down on our cars and deck and scratch it. Flat out. I mean, you don't want that. We don't even want to be out there in the first place. But if we never park on this side. I had one staff person, massage therapist, who know all the parts of 2 days in, I said, you can't park that. You don't want it because that's not safe being on that side. Okay. So what I, in the ordinance, which is kind of confusing, it went 220 feet, 175 feet here. What's the difference? Secondly, is the only complaints that I can see of all the minutes we passed through with more people on how This is how nobody ever pressed. I met with Chad and Charlie a couple weeks ago. I said, what happened? And I believe they were of the understanding, I mean, quote unquote, they thought the bus, actually, school bus came down the street. It does not come down the street. This is 340, stops. And, you know, to top it off, my grandson is going to be on that bus real shortly. So that his dad, who's a kind of practice, could be at the school. So he can come to our office and do his homework. So I'm just asking for either can it be repealed, can it be reduced? What's happened is because of this, now our neighbors are impacted. This gentleman over here who was here tonight, Ramon, he's messed up. This gentleman over here, Jeff Keynes, he's I believe the police chief of Lafayette Fire Company. He came to the parking lot of his house. And this is the Millers. They can't park in front of their house. Like, how can you sell a home if you can't park in front? This is a picture. This is another picture of Highview, just a little further down the street. Okay. Okay, so 340 is here. My office is here. So here's the street. Here's two cars parked on the street. See the limitation of people getting by there? There's no safety issue there. Zero. In our neighborhood, we've had 4 fire and rescue calls. One was where a chimney got hit by lightning. One was at our office where our basement flooded out when there was massive rains. There, to my knowledge, it was a cardiac issue and a car fire. There has never, fire departments have never come and said anything to us. The state, the rescue people have never said anything. Like Santa Claus has never had a problem getting down the street when it's coming down. So, folks, I'm telling you, it's a shame. I'm saddened that this happened because I've done everything I can to please this township. I love it here. I'm here 33 years, not as long as some of you. My heart and blood and soul is here. I treat your neighbors. I treat your family and friends. Trying to make life now, they're just still parking the street. I'm not telling you to, we're not parking because I don't want to take it. I don't want to be disobedient. That's why on here I put, you know, for instance, these exactly meet the size of our cars. I mean, I try to be as upfront and honest about this as possible. I mean, a compromise, make it 50. You know, and maybe, and almost on my side. Let's not mess up the neighbors. Here, make it 50 feet here, make it 50 feet here. Let us still park there. This is way over here because this parking lot, the line is actually over here. When they did an academy, this is all open. The only problem is this tree is big.
I'm like, well, it would have been Brett Michaels because obviously they can't afford to have Poison playing at Bike Week. I was like, whatever, that had me mind blown. But then again, Brett Michaels' music by himself, it's like country music and it's.
Go ahead.
This tree is really not an obstruction to people coming down this corner. There's growth between this tree and 340 that becomes a challenge, but it's really not. I saw that in the minutes last time from there. This is a view. This is a view of 3 cars parked looking out from Route 340. So I'm standing on 340, shooting down Highview. This is where we park. This is that big tree that they're concerned about, obstructing view. So I'm looking down. You can see there's plenty of room for cars in the line. But this is the same. This is the view from the opposite side. Now we're coming down towards 340.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Rogers, you need to continue to
I'm
use.
sorry,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm
that's
sorry.
great. Thank you.
So that's the same 3 cars looking the other direction. So, I mean, I have no problem, restricting it on both sides of there. Just cut us a break. We're looking for 3 or 4 spots. That's all. Maybe if Kurt Stump ever sells that property, maybe we'll consider buying it. Maybe he'll give me a permit to put more parking over there or something like that. I don't know. When I was at the old location, we had parking issues there. I rented parking spaces from Service America. Well, it's not Service America, it's the karate studio, and that's about. I rented from them for like 15 years. We walked a block to my office, through the car wash, through Kurt's car wash, and all the way, over. So when it talks about safety, I'm a doctor. I'm aware of this. Tara and I talked about, well, maybe my staff can park at the hack because there is a trail. And we not nix that because that's not safe. I don't want my staff walking through the woods when it's dark out in this time of year. So we nixed that, and that's where we are. This other picture here, the last one. This is just a car. This was a parent, one of the parents that complained the last time, parked on the exit of Highview Drive, and that's okay. We don't even want to park there because it wouldn't be safe for us to be there in the first place. You can see you can get by there. We don't even park down that close, 2, 3, 4. So, I mean, that's
Okay.
I guess that's the only comment.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Appreciate that. Thank you. Staff, when we stepped through the process to listen to the neighbors' concerns, we did appropriately advertise and post that we were going to be having that conversation, correct?
Yes, the ordinance was properly advertised and posted.
All right. And I don't recall the evening, how many, but there were quite a number of people here from the neighborhood at the time.
I was not present for that meeting, but from looking at the minutes, I believe that's correct.
Okay. And the ordinance that allows for the posting of the no parking signs calls for what, Ralph? What distance from 340?
The real issue here is the width of the two side roads, the amount of paved area of the two side roads. So what PennDOT publication 212 says is that if it's anything less than 18 feet from the center line to the edge of the paving, the township can restrict parking in those areas. And the reason for that, again, is the narrowing of the road if vehicles would be parked there. And of course, as you get closer to an intersection, especially closer to an intersection of a busy street like Old Philadelphia Pike, the more of a hazard it becomes because vehicles trying to get off of Old Philadelphia Pike, if there's vehicles coming where they want to drive through, you have a conflict there. And if it backs up onto Old Philadelphia Pike, you have more of a hazard that way. So as you get closer to the intersection, the more critical it is to keep that area completely clear so that you definitely have two-way traffic free and flowing.
And when Mr. Rogers' business expanded to the location, I'm assuming that we applied all of our ordinances for parking to the business and the dynamics of the business the way, it was presented by the applicant, the number of employees and so on and so forth.
Yes, I remember the subdivision land development process. I don't recall whether Dr. Rogers had to go to the zoning hearing board for any particular approvals, but if he did, he got them. He went through the process, got all the necessary approvals through all the township ordinances.
I appreciate that your business is expanding, Dr. Rogers. I've heard us all over the past couple of months as we were looking at this and talking to the public that was here that we're thrilled. We want to encourage the growth and the expansion of a business. So we need to do our best as the governing body to make a business fit into a community or into a neighborhood and then find ways for the activity that business brings into the neighborhood to fit and work in. We obviously have to rely upon ordinances to make that happen. I don't know. The neighbors that were here that made a presentation, I didn't hear any of them. I'm not sure if I heard any of them even speak directly about the business itself. But I remember them talking about the traffic and the entrance and the egress and the parking and all those kinds of things. I didn't hear them mention things that you were talking about, the business itself, but so we were responding to that. And you brought some images. There were a lot of images that were presented that night. There were a lot of things that the neighbors were presenting to us. Board response, comments, anything at all?
I wasn't here for that meeting, I know, so I don't have the benefit of that discussion. But
And so what is the current distance that their parking is restricted on Highview?
220 feet high, 175.
So 220, you were parking 50 plus 4 car lengths, so you're still allowed to park on Highview, correct? Yes, I mean, after 200 feet.
North of the no parking restriction.
Yeah.
No, 220 feet. That 270 feet is the first neighborhood. One here, 270 here, and the next two, there's four. There's four, like 121, 125. I wish they were here. I wish I was at that meeting. Because I wish we could have a meeting before we came here.
So do we.
Let's do it.
Did you knock on their, Dr. Rogers, did you knock on your neighbor's doors to address it once you learned
I
about
know
it?
which neighbors it was.
Oh, okay.
I first seen this, the signs were up, I can't park.
Well, after that, obviously, they've been up a little while.
I no problem doing it, you know,
Yeah, so my comment was you're allowed to park on the street, you just have to walk an extra 100 feet from where you used to park.
well.
Yeah, which is fine. It's a public street, you can park in front of a residence.
Yeah, so where do those neighbors?
I'm sorry, what is your question?
I don't know.
Those neighbors, when I start parking, if we start parking down the street in front of there, we can do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take that.
Yeah, I mean, it's better. I mean, you were parking under the tree on your property today when I drove by. Closer to closer to 340, but under the
Yeah,
tree.
we've never parked that close, but now the sign has forced us to park on it. It doesn't look like correct.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a.
But there's, like street parking is perfectly acceptable in most places, and we should utilize street parking as much as possible rather than building more parking lots. So I think if the neighbors complain about you parking further up the street, then we might revisit the number of feet. But I think restricting it further for that intersection made sense at the time, still makes sense. You can still park all the way up that street.
Neighbors have been complaining for 70 years. We have a police office once or twice a year. Person parks a lot. So I don't know if there's anything on this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, any other public comment for non-agenda items? Anyone right here? Oh, yes, sir. Come up to the microphone if you would. And just state your name and your address if you would, please.
My name is Jeff Miller. Property on 110 Ivy Drive. Why is everybody allowed to park in front of their homes except for me? Why is that? Why is it on the other side of the street, Crestmont, 175 feet back? Why on Highview is it 220 feet back? If it's 175 on both sides, I'm allowed to park in front of my house.
Staff, could you answer that question? Why does it vary between the two?
I don't know. I'd have to inquire with Charlie about what they were looking at when they decided that distance.
We'll definitely get both of you an answer as to why it varies, because you both have asked the same question. We'll get you an answer as to why that continues.
Yeah, if it's 175, just on the say on the east side, in front of my house, no parking on across the street. I don't have a problem with that. But make it 175 on the one side. That way, I'm allowed to park in front of my house.
And in particular, you're talking about the west side of
I'm talking
Highview,
about Highview Drive, yeah.
the west side of
Yeah,
Highview,
the west side, yeah.
where
East side,
your home is.
Yeah.
I understand.
One in front of my house, and one I have parking.
Is it, Jeff, you said you're 110, correct?
110.
Okay.
I have this home here.
I understand. We'll get you an answer.
If you bring it to here, right there inside my driveway, not a problem.
We'll get
We'll get you an answer.
That's, you know, and
Fair
this
question.
man has been very good. I never seen anybody park in front of this place, in front of my driveway. This people down here, he always is up here. Never had a complaint with this man. We're having a get together, a party, Christmas, Thanksgiving, which we always do here. He allows us to park in this driveway. I don't know who makes the bus stops. Who decides where the bus must park? I mean, stop for the kids. Who decides that?
School district.
School district in
School
conjunction
board.
with
We
it.
talk to them and have them pick them up down here. But this up here ain't going to be in the way. Kids can walk, but there's the other thing. They talk to this man here. I'm going to bet you. You allow those people to pull their cars in here first thing in the morning. If it's raining, snowing, windy, freezing cold. This is where it's going to become a problem. Then the parents are going to park up here. I come out of this driveway, if it's raining, you'll have 2 or 3 cars parked right there, waiting for the bus. Now, how dangerous is that? Sometimes the kids are in the middle of the road. They, cars come around the corner, they can't see them. This man, I bet you, will let those cars park in the parking spot right here, it's not open yet. They can wait for the bus and they get that all nice and flat. I really would appreciate if you would look into this.
Yep.
And have these parked in front of my house.
We'll get an answer for you. We'll get back to you, Jeff.
The answer comes
That's great.
This week,
So, Jeff,
this week. Are you going to notify me?
we will contact you.
You need my name, number,
Ha-
address?
Have your name and address.
You have it already?
Yes,
you
sir.
gave
she
it to us. You just gave it to the whole room. 110 Highview.
All right.
Jeff Miller.
Appreciate it.
Jeff Miller. Thanks, Jeff.
Because it ain't no different right now. Let me charge you $5 to park that. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm gonna charge you $5.
It's your taxes. We'll pay it.
That's right. Hey, anybody hear that?
All right.
Well, thank you for letting me speak
Thank you.
my-
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other comments? Public comment? Okay. For non-agenda items only, sir, is there an item on the agenda you would like to comment on? Okay. Could you come up to the microphone and state your name if you would, please? Thank you. You'll need to speak into that microphone, sir. Thank you.
John Miller, 317 Stratford Park. I want to put a barn up on the Imperial Road. But I don't know if the soil conservation, you know, is it my turn to be up there or should I?
No, Mr. Miller, unfortunately, you're not at the correct meeting yet.
Oh, I'm not.
No, the Conservation District just issued you a technical deficiency to your consultant.
So which meeting do I have to go?
You'll need to be at a planning commission meeting in the future.
But you don't know how to.
I don't know how soon. You should talk with your consultant.
That individual should be getting notification from staff.
I do, and he did get notification today by email. I don't know about that, I'm sorry.
You're not ready to do the program.
No, sir.
No.
That depends on how quickly he answers Lancaster County Conservation District.
You need to-
Bill, yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
See you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Okay, anyone else from public comment? Public comment. Yes, come up and once again, state your name if you would, and you'll need to speak into the mic. Come up, just speak into the mic if you would, please.
This Ramon is a neighbor, also from the area.
And what is Ramon's address? Okay.
So he's also a neighbor. I'm Isaac Rifa. I'm not translating for him. because he doesn't.
Sure, sure. What is Ramon's last name?
That's Matos, Matos.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
He's been living there for 3 years. His wife, she wants to open a daycare in the house. Last year he came here to get a permit for that daycare. The permit was approved because no neighbor complained, so it was approved.
Ahora mismo, como pusieron las señales, no puede parquear. Cuando vayan a dejar los niños, no puede parquear a los niños. Porque está prohibido el parqueo.
Okay, so now that he wants to open the business, he got no parking for the customers that are dropping off the kids. So that's going to be an issue because it's far from the house. If they have to park, it's not far from the house, so that's going to be an issue. That's convenient.
La señal está en la esquina de mi casa, en toda la casa.
So it's the signs are on the house on both sides, the front and the back.
No puede parquear a los niños a recoger.
There is no place to park, drop off, pick up the kids.
Okay. So we got an in-home business, the daycare. Go ahead.
I'd have to look at the ordinance to see whether a daycare is considered an in-home business or not.
Okay.
I don't remember.
And
So
the home occupation.
I'm
Depends
assuming
on the size of it, yes.
it's mostly, it's going to be home occupation. So, but the question is, we come back to is how many staff? You know, are there parking requirements for drop off and pickup? You know, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. We'd have to research the ordinance to identify those
Okay.
requirements.
So Ramon's address is 1709 Old Philadelphia Pike, correct? Okay. Right. Matos, Mattos. See, good.
Corner of Crestmont.
Sure. Okay, good. We're going to, staff will look at the ordinance to see what impact there may be, what parking requirements there may or may not be for an in-home business like this. And they'll reach back out to you and they'll let you know what the implication would be. Okay.
And just one more comment on this one. You can do pickup, drop off in your driveway as well as beyond the signs. Yeah, and that's one where you probably want to double check your home occupation permit. You usually don't have those with that many parking requirements. Because they're single person pick up and drop off. But you have the whole street up there, and I, like Chairman Bauer says, we already look at the distance back, but I don't know where 175 feet it's on.
So the home business is on Old Philadelphia Pike.
Well, the driveway is on Crestmont.
Driveway is on Crestmont. Okay, that's how I went for that. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, anyone else for non-agenda items? Anyone? Okay. Anyone on Zoom?
No.
Non-agenda items. Okay,
There's nothing by email.
and there's nothing by email. Okay. Great. All right. Moving on to our consent agenda, item number 4. We have a number of items here. We will briefly, I'll mention each one of those, and then we will vote in consideration of those one time. So we have approval of the September. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. We changed this. So approval of the meeting agenda for the supervisors meeting. Approval of the minutes of the Monday, August 16th regular board meeting. Approval to pay invoices from all funds. a total of $2,032,212.37. There are a number of items of note here. We have $1,348,400.66 to Fulton Bank for the East Lampeter Sewer Authority debt service payments. We have $21,985 to Vigilant Solutions for our license plate reader equipment, which we bought 2 of those. We have $63,750 for third quarter fire company contributions. We have 4 fire companies in the township. We distribute $15,937.50 to each on a quarterly basis. $9,250 for our third quarter library contributions. We break those down by the library branches by traffic related to East Lampeter residents. $67,834.45 to Liberty Restoration and Construction for the roof repair project. It's the first invoice and it's currently underway, correct?
Yes.
We have, let's see, approval of release of the letter of credit for number 2020-09, the Wenger Stormwater Management Plan for 2336 Hobson Road. Is there any balance remaining on that one?
No.
None, no balance remaining on that one. Thank you very much. We have approval of release of letter of credit for 2020-12, the Berger Stormwater Management Plan for 2191 Porter Way. And once again, there is no remaining balance on that. That is it for the consent agenda. Gentlemen, do we have a motion?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Ethan. Questions or concerns? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5A, old business, number 2017-08, the PennDOT wash facility, the reinstatement of the plan and conditions of approval. Ralph, do you want to give us a little bit of background?
Yes, this has been in front of the board a number of times in the past. They were unable to satisfy all the conditions and record the plan within the previous time extension that was given. And so they've reached that point in time where they've have all the conditions of approval ready, the plan's ready to be signed, and they're requesting that the board reinstate the plan since the previous time extension expired. And we're recommending that you give that approval subject to them satisfying all the conditions of approval that were already set by the board.
Okay. All right. Board members, discussion, concerns, motion.
I would move that we grant the request for reinstatement of the plan with all the original conditions to be met and time extension to record a plan. Second.
Okay, been moved by Dave, seconded by Glenn. Questions about the motion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. 5B, we have a public hearing that will follow a established process. I'll open the public hearing and then we will step through some public comment, description of the ordinance. We'll have some questions, discussion amongst the board. If there's any public comment, we'll take that and then we'll close the hearing. So we have a public hearing on an ordinance amending the East Lampeter Township zoning ordinance to define warehouse, define integrated commercial enterprise, and to permit integrated commercial enterprises within the village commercial zoning district, subject to certain supplemental regulations. Okay. Want to step up, please? State your name and the party you're here with, please.
Peter Wirtz. I'm an associate with Meets Wallace and Merrick here on behalf of Gap Brothers Holdings LLC.
And you said it's Peter Wirtz?
That's correct.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, Peter, go ahead.
So by way of a chronology, we came before the Planning Commission on June 8, 2021 Supervisors on June 21st to formally discuss the contents of the proposed text amendment to the Township zoning ordinance. Specifically, the text amendment would permit an integrated commercial enterprise in the village commercial district, which is essentially a business use that incorporates both office and warehouse components. Following those initial informal discussions with the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission, which were favorable, we proceeded to draft a petition and the proposed ordinance with the input of the township staff and work closely with them to flesh out the details. On July 14th, we submitted a petition and a proposed ordinance to the Board of Supervisors. The board referred it out to the East Lamphere Township Planning Commission, as well as the Lancaster County Planning Department for their recommendation. On August 13th, LCPD issued staff memorandum, which constituted its formal recommendation of approval for those ordinance. On September 14th, we came to the Planning Commission just last week. At that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended unanimously to adopt the proposed ordinance, and we're here tonight to ask the board's formal adoption of the ordinance. By way of a background, and as you already know, this would essentially create by right use of an integrated commercial enterprise within the village commercial district, subject to certain criteria. It would permit office and warehouse uses sort of intertwined in one business. Has certain control limits on the warehouse component, subject to a 30,000 square foot, or excuse me, a 20,000 square foot limitation, and provides that the office component must exceed the warehouse component. It also restricts the general application of the ordinance by requiring use to have primary access to a road that is owned and operated by the township, and also has minimum lot size requirements between 2 and 10 acres, and those lots have to exist at the time of the ordinance. So with that, I will turn it over to the board for any questions for either myself or Steve Gerber, Department of Engineering,
Good. Okay, thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. You may want to stay there. We may have comments and questions for you. So, questions of the applicant would. None?
Nope. I don't have any questions. This is something that we had looked at before.
I think pointing out and recognizing a difference between county planning department and as the ordinance is written, we're talking about, properties that are on a township road. So we're looking at a very limited number of parcels that this could apply to. So, Glenn, anything?
No, it's pretty clear.
Okay. Staff, any final comments?
This is consistent with the earlier presentations that the board has seen, and they've worked with staff to generate the final language, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval.
And as you noted, John, the Lancaster County Planning Department indicated more parcels could be affected, but that is incorrect based on the language of the ordinance. There's this parcel and a parcel that's located at Sylvan and Route 30.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Hearing no further questions or concerns, is there a motion?
Well, is there any comments?
Sorry, thank you, Dave.
And then
Appreciate
you'll have
that.
to close. the
Thank you.
meeting.
Any public comment? No public comment on this. Tara, anything on Zoom?
Nothing
No
on
public
Zoom.
comment. No public comment on Zoom. Okay. All right. We'll close the hearing. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. There's no further question, discussion, or public comment. We've closed the hearing. Is there, what's your interest? What would you like to do? guys?
I'll move for approval of the amendment to our zoning ordinance. Let's see, it's amendment to Village Commercial District as presented.
Okay. Second. Okay. A motion's been made by Dave, seconded by Ethan. Questions or concerns about the motion at the table? Hearing none. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations, guys. Good luck. Okay, item number 6, new business, 6A. This is a presentation before the board on the pension plan investment results from Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley, gentlemen, you'll need to speak right into that mic. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you,
Stephen
Howard.
Kupchar from Morgan Stanley, and I'm here with Howard Williard tonight. We're here for our annual review of the pension plan of East Lampere. And I think we'll have some nice things to share with you. Information today, the market was a little rugged. We were down 614 points, down 1.78%. We were down over 971. It was a C and C market. C for China, with a concern about one of the large developers in China and could possibly default this week. And the other is COVID, which is a continuing concern. And good news, bad news, that will continue in the upcoming weeks. But we feel that interest rates are going to remain low. Inflation is going to remain somewhat on the low side. Earnings have been quite positive, and our report here tonight will show how we've done. Very good allocation, very good performance, and I'll turn it over to Howard. Thank you again.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm just gonna use this one if that's all right.
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, either one, Howard. You can use either one, whatever you're comfortable with.
Apologize for the voice. I was at the White House Saturday night, so we're hanging on fumes right now.
Were you cheering for Auburn?
Absolutely not. No, I had an uncle that played fraternal way back. But I will. I'll jump to page 4 here. This is through the end of August, so we don't have the fun day today in here. But I just like to, we do these quarterlies. Like to look at that bottom left since inception. Now this is for the police, but that's a bulk of the assets. 9 million beginning value, 3.1 in contributions. That's between the state, the township, and the police paychecks, and gains of 21.959 million since the beginning of 2009. And that police plan is worth 34, which works out to 9.2 annualized rate of return. And you can see year to date in the top right, we're at 11.9 with a dollar weighted return. And you can see it's been, it was 14.7 last year and 19.2 in 2019. So extremely happy with performance. And you can see the one thing that we're gonna kind of recommend today, which we touched on in August, was equity exposure. We are plugging away, with an 11, basically 12% return already year to date. The kind of target allocation in neutral would be a 60% equity exposure. And right now it's at 65.6. We're going to recommend today that we reduce that equity exposure by putting about 2% into fixed income, and then 1% in the alternatives account for alternatives that we are still researching, either to add to the existing ones or to pick up a new one, which we'll be reviewing with the committee shortly. But both the market has kind of, it's gotten a little ahead of itself, basically. We are still long-term overweight equities, but we just don't, we don't want this to get too far ahead of itself. And if we do get a pullback, we want to have some dry powder like we did last year. When COVID hit, we put almost $1 million to work close to the bottom, because we had some dry powder. So that's the whole concept behind, having an investment policy statement and being able to utilize, cash bonds, stocks, and alternatives. So we still think stocks good for the long run, might have a little chop coming up. In the Morgan Stanley gurus and what we call our global investment committee have also in the last couple of days reduced their amount of overweight. They're still overweight equities, but cut that overweight basically in half. So that's the recommendation there.
Did you say, Howard, they cut that in half?
Yeah. So for a portfolio that might have been at, their model doesn't line up exactly with this, but they were at about 10% overweight equities, and now they're at about 5% for in general. So for us, it shows here on that one page 65. If you go to 9, what you'll see here is that it actually could be a little bit heavier equity concentration, because what this shows is if every equity manager put every cent of their cash to work. So you're potentially looking at 69.2, and the limit in the IPS is 70%. So we don't want that to come in, due to equity gains and managers all of a sudden deciding to redeploy. We're not going to hit a home run in fixed income markets right now, but I think we continue to eat away at whatever underfunded status there potentially was. I don't think that's it is pretty much go on. I don't know the next time we'll see an actuarial report on that, but that's basically the plan. We put up 3 years of solid double-digit returns, and we think just to be prudent here. And you can see page 10 shows the allocation change over time. So we were at coming into COVID at the beginning of 2020, we were at 61% equities, and now we're at about 66. And we actually have already this calendar year pulled money out of equities and put it into fixed income, but we just we're fighting this tsunami of bonds can't make much money and equities continue to outperform expectations here. So it's a good problem to have. I'll jump to page 17, just to highlight the individual managers that we're working with. And across the board, very pleased. The first one, Poland, last 12 months up 33, its index up 28, and since you've owned them up 21.5 versus 19 and change. So doing well last 12 months, doing great since you've owned them. Jennison up 25.4 versus 28.5. So underperforming a little bit in the last 12 months, but still outperforming nicely since you've had them 40 and change versus 34 and change. And large growth has been the place to be. We have continued to we were significantly overweight there. It's worked extremely well. We've backed it off, and you may see at some point us backing that down a little bit more. Not today. Delaware, large cap value up 28 and change last 12 months versus 36. So underperforming there. A little bit of underperformance since inception. They were better than break even before this last 12 months. So we're not ready to give up on them yet, but we are kind of watching them very closely. The Aristotle, though, the newer edition that we added in early 18, up 40 versus 36, and up 16 and a quarter versus 11 and change. So very happy with what's happening with Aristotle. Chartwell up 37 and change the last 12 months versus 44.5, underperforming a little bit there. Basically in line since inception, 10.93 versus 11.38. They had really monumental outperformance of basically, in the last 12, 18 months, have given that back, but we are still very big believers in them. Small cap, the Ziegler small cap core up 49.5% in the last 12 months, and compared that to 47, and they're up, back to in line. They had a small gap of underperforming kind of out of the gate, but they're closing that very well. Harding Loevner ADR, that is the international manager. Last 12 months up 25 versus 24.87. It's pretty much in line in the last 12 months, but since you've owned them, 9.91 versus 7.55. So very strong outperformance from them since 2012. Emerging markets, we use Harding Loevner there, outperforming in the last 12 months, 23.8 versus 21.1, and closing the gap on a slight underperformance since inception, 6.3 versus 7.09, and that's going to continue to be a choppy place with what's going on with that Chinese developer, because China is the biggest emerging market it's a potential space of growth, but with that will come some volatility. And then you can see taxable core. This is the bond manager. Last 12 months up 3% versus 1.5%, which is not that exciting, but in the world of bonds, being doubling your index is pretty fantastic. In the last 5 years, up 4.1 versus 3.6. So happy with the managers across the board. Maybe one to watch a little bit, but pretty happy there. And going back to the first time he had us here was really to talk about alternatives, and then to just set the tone for talking about the portfolio on an ongoing basis. The next couple of pages just relate to the alternatives account. And what you'll see here on page 19 is last 12 months in the alternatives account, up 19%. And that is actually underreporting the gains, because some of these things, it takes a while for the numbers to come in. You'll see on the next page, the month to date and quarter to date for some of these investments still show as a zero. And that's just because the reporting takes so long to get in with these illiquid assets. But everything up last 12 months, and for the most part up double digits. Very pleased with what's going on there. And it has become less than 10%, which was the target. So we want to add some stuff there. We know that your actuarial target was 6.5.
Yes.
We're not going to get that in fixed income, but I think the alternatives give us a place to go to get rid of the equity volatility, but still give you a fighting chance to most years be able to do somewhere in that neighborhood of, that 5 to 7% range. There are some alternatives that are out there to, do 30 when the market's up 20. For the most part, we are looking to just get non-correlated returns out of that account. That's going to save the other stuff. So there you go.
Okay. Questions?
When do we get the actuary report? Is that the end of the year?
Those are done every 2 years. So the next one will be a report early next year as of 1/1/21. So he's looking at all the information now, and will generate the report early next year.
Do we have any feeling if we're close to being funded or underfunded or overfunded, or where we stand?
The last actuarial we had, the non-uniform plan was considered to be fully funded at that time. The uniform plan was like 98 point something funded by my recollection. So they're both very well funded, and we're very close to being 100% or more on both. There were some changes. You might remember earlier this year, the board decided to make a few changes in the assumptions, which moderately increase cost on the plans. So that'll be reflected in the next actuarial.
Was that when you went to 6.5?
No, the changes had to do with the table on life expectancy, and there was one other assumption change, but it didn't change
It was just
the rate. Correct.
Yeah, I don't think we changed the ARR this time,
No.
but we did change the actuarial, which was a pretty big one, because we were rolling in overfunded prior to that. So.
In both.
Yeah.
Both.
That could be.
107.
It was.
and-
I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't remember us talking about both being overfunded.
But we tweaked basically made the actuarial assumptions much more in line with reality, which is what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think your 6.5, I mean, not that it's a point of contention, that's on the, I think, more attainable number, especially with where fixed income is. And it's, you're not too low, but I think you're kind of setting the trend. There's, most states are more aggressive than that. And, over the last 20 years, probably haven't done the number that they're doing. So.
I say they've been aggressive, but they haven't attained the number. That's Well, we were looking at it and saying,
Yeah,
let's
my-
not keep saying that we're going to reach the sky and not hit it.
Since there are ongoing discussion, but my proposal was to start dropping us down a tenth over 10 years. So we slope to move down to 6 and then 5.5.
To bring it more in line. You said 5 to 7.
Well, that was for the alternative, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think there is, I mean, the lower you can get the number, the more conservative you can be and know that you can hit it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair goal. And I think you guys are very much doing your fiduciary duty by at least discussing that.
Yeah. And I like, even since you guys have been coming here, we've moved that portfolio risk down. But we still achieve good returns. So.
We're doing the best we can.
Good. Steve, anything else?
Thank you. Beginning of the fair market. Well.
Yeah.
Now looking at our assets. Something powerful.
Good. All right. Anything else, Dave? Nothing else, Glenn? No. Okay. Howard, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good to see you again. Thank you, Steve. Okay, moving on, under new business, 6B, item number 2021-17, High Associates, the Zook Yoder Esch Phase 3, 534 Willow Road Land Development Plan. Mark, you'll have to make sure you're talking directly into that, or you can take it off of there and use the handheld. That may be more comfortable for you too.
You want this one, Mark? Up to you.
Yeah. Kara will tell me if I'm not talking loud enough or not.
She will definitely help you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Stanley. I'm a partner with the Falls, and I represent the applicants in my property. With me tonight is Tony Seitz and Beth Perez, right from properties. Dave Miller to my right, the two associates. The two associates is the project engineer and land planner on the Greenfield North project, and also Greenfield North, which is depicted on the color rendering and also on the screen, is a multi-family project that we talked to the board about in the past, consisting of 615 total units, 587 apartments, and 28 townhouses along the low road. We're in receipt of the DMA review letter number 2. Review letter number 1 is considerably longer than what we have right now, and the planning commission presented to them this week. Thanked us for working together with staff and carrying that review letter down. We're also in receipt of the Lancaster County Planning Department memorandum. I'd like to talk to you about the DMA letter and also the planning department. Then I would like Tony to, he's moving. Briefly review the color rendering and some of the specifics of the site plan. And then Brad, who has not moved, and is to my left, review the elevations for both the multifamily apartment buildings and also the elevation for the townhouses along the way. As I mentioned earlier, DMA review letter number 2, we are generally comfortable with the comments. After that came out, Dave Miller spent some considerable time with Scott Payne, reviewing some of the open issues with respect to open space, with respect to some of the stormwater comments, and we've reached, I think, a consensus between the engineers. So generally, we're comfortable with comments under
zoning, subdivision and development, and also the stormwater. The waivers and modifications that are requested are itemized on pages 2, 3, 4. Except for items 3 and 4, each one of the waivers that are requested has either been recommended for approval or recommended with conditions. With respect to number 3, initially we had asked or sought a deferral of the road widening for Willow Road. When we had a discussion with staff, we went back and forth, noting that the urban growth boundary runs down the center of Willow Road. To the north of Willow Road is the agricultural zone. We have provided all necessary right of way along our frontage from Greenfield. And instead of asking for deferral, we had discussions with staff, and we're asking for a waiver of road. It is consistent, I believe, with what is there. Your long-range plans are urban growth boundary and not wanting to change the general character of the road. Staff is in support of that waiver road widening. And the planning commission has recommended that waiver.
Same thing.
Item number 4 relates to urban along Willow, and specifically at the intersection of Franklin Boulevard and Willow Road. Initially, we had asked for a waiver, but in discussions with staff, noting the potential stormwater issues, we're comfortable, and now we're simply asking for a deferral of curbing along the road. We do note that there is a stormwater pipe that runs in Willow Road, and when and if that occurs, the curbing will simply need to work closely with staff and their engineer as to where the curbing is placed because of the utilities that are. So, information also is comfortable with control. With respect to the Lancaster County Planning Department, we asked the Planning Commission to exclude comments 1 and 2 from their recommendation. Their first comment. I was about to get yelled at. So.
Yes, you were.
Is that one on?
They really don't make a noise. There you go. Oh, I do.
The first comment related to extending connections to the path that we circumvent lot 3 with between the openings to the townhouses. But what the planning department was not aware of is there was about a 9 to 10 foot grade change between Willow Road and the front of the townhouses. So it really becomes impractical. They do have connectivity because of the connections that currently exist and are planned for between the sidewalks and the path. And because of the topography, it's just not practical to add those additional connections. Comment number 2 of the planning department's comment is a suggestion that we extend the pedestrian path, but that also becomes impractical because of the floodplain and the Army Corps Conservation District declaration that it affects this area that is to the east of lot number 3. So our request, which I think staff's comfortable with and the planning commission has recommended, would be to comply with the county planning department's recommendations, excluding comments 1 and 2. Otherwise, we're good. We believe that the 2 associates and Dave Miller, working with Scott Hain and staff, can address the other comments that exist in the DMA letter. We would ask for your approval of the modifications with a waiver of the road widening for Willow Road and a deferral of the curbing along Willow Road. Under and subject to the remaining comments of DMA letter and under and subject to satisfaction of the county comments, excluding comments 1 and 2. If you have any specific questions or need for our team with respect to the review letters, be glad to answer those. Or if you'd like to wait until Tony reviews the color rendering and Brad reviews the elevations, we could defer questions until that.
Keep moving. Keep moving, guys. Yeah, yep, keep moving. Thank you, guys.
Tony Sykes with my associates, Vice President for Development. Pleased to be here this evening before you. Thank you for your consideration. I think Mark gave a great introduction to this plan. I'd like to key off one of the things he said. This has been a point of discussion and collaboration with the township staff for many, many months now. And certainly what you see before you on this easel and what folks are saying on the Zoom meeting is all the better for that collaboration. What I'd like to do, I think Mark did a pretty good job of orienting the site. What I'd like to do is just take a minute or two to kind of walk you through this layout. And then, as mentioned, Brad will talk about the building elevations. We're really excited about this project. It's the largest one that we've advanced as a company. We're thrilled that it's right here in our backyard, in our own township, working with you. So I'll turn to the site plan that on the easel and talk from the easel. The project is consists of 615 multifamily apartment units, and the site is about a 28-acre site bounded to the north by Willow Road, to the west by Greenfield Road, the south by Ben Franklin Boulevard, and to the east by the riparian buffer area. The 3 U-shaped buildings are the 3 primary apartment buildings. You got the 2 L-shaped buildings here, buildings 4 and 5 to the east are also apartment buildings. These 3 buildings are 5-story elevated buildings. Each have about roughly 160 units to them. Buildings 1 and 2, the first 2 buildings going south from Willow Road, have underground parking, about 98 spaces and 93 spaces. Building 1 also has the leasing office, so all the employees that manage, that lease this property are all going to be located in Building 1 in this corner of the building by the plaza entrance. I covered the U-shaped buildings. These buildings will have courtyards facing each other. And then Building 3 is 160 units. This building does not have underground parking. So underground parking, no underground parking, courtyard, courtyard, courtyard. Moving to the east, real briefly, buildings 4 and 5 are the L-shaped buildings to the east. These are smaller buildings. I mentioned these have about 160 units. Here we're talking about 56, 57 units. And they also have underground parking, 37 spaces in each building. These buildings are essentially, can be thought of as a mirror image of each other, a very similar layout with underground parking. And then between them is a community center. We're very excited about that. We're going to offer some great amenities as part of this development. I think you get the feel from it between the walkability and the openness of this development. The community center will have a fitness, yoga room, business center, kids room, and will be a great space. And then finally, a pool complex to the east of the community center. So really a great space.
What's the height of those two, Tony? The two small, what's the height?
I want to say 4-story elevator.
4-story.
Yeah.
The others are 5.
The others are 5. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I was thinking. The site's bounded by a walking path, 5-foot asphalt path, and the location along Greenfield and Willow will be within a public easement and available to the public. That's the essence of the plan. I'm going to turn to Brad. Actually, I'll flip this. It's a little easier for him to get it started, but we're excited about these buildings. It's great.
Sure. Good evening, I'm Brad Mowbray, Senior Vice President of the Multifamily Division for High Real Estate Group. Happy to be here. I get to talk about fun beautiful pictures, so I can eat some part, right? What you see in front of you is just an elevation of one of the larger U-shaped buildings. This is 5 stories. Again, as Tony mentioned, one of the buildings will have a leasing center strictly for leasing in one of the end caps of the building. And then the balance of it is serviced by 2 elevators. So in the 2 U-shaped buildings, we'll have 2 elevators per building. And then there's a single elevator in the 2 smaller L-shaped buildings. Really proud of the design. I think it fits a really nice transitional. It's not contemporary, but it's not something that you've seen out of the 90s in terms of design. So we think we're doing it with really nice materials that are obviously something that we take pride in. We're going to be here for the next 50 to 100 years, we hope longer. And so trying to build something that's going to withstand time, not only from a material perspective, but also from a elevation into something beautiful for the community to look at. One of the things that I also wanted to point out, which you may have a picture that we'll have to show on the screen, is an elevation of the townhomes. You have that as well. There we go. So one of the comments that we wanted to address with the commission was to, this is an elevation looking as if you're standing on Willow Road looking south. So if you're standing on the road looking towards the townhouses, what we wanted to do was have a face that looked like the front door of a home, even though the access is primarily going to come from the other side of those buildings and the townhouses. This definitely gives a nice transition, we believe, for the community to look at as they're driving down Willow Road, and it just sort of grades into the overall site as you look south. So we think it's in keeping with the neighborhood feel of Willow Road. So.
Mark said, I think, 10-foot, 9-foot elevation change.
That's correct. So on the back side of these townhouses, there's actually underground parking.
Okay.
So
for those, yeah,
units.
for those.
If you look at.
What I'm wondering, Brad, as I look at this from Willow Road, am I seeing 2.5 stories? Am I seeing 1 story of the multifamily behind? What am I seeing?
You're currently seeing 2 stories with the pitch of the roof.
And then behind that, I would see 2.5 stories of the multifamily, those.
In theory, yes, but because of the topography of the site, as you go right to left on the page, the slope of the overall sites goes from the highest point at Willow Road down towards Ben Franklin Parkway. So you definitely will see the building behind it, but it is not going to be all level.
5-story, yeah,
correct.
2.5.
Especially if you're standing here looking up at a building, your view shed is really more the top of the building, not entirely the balance of it. So we think this is a nice transition for the community as you come south into the site. Again, happy to answer any questions. Again, the amenity building that's in the center of the 2 smaller L-shaped buildings is solely for the residents of the community that live there. And again, it offers the amenities that Tony mentioned, as we do in all of our other multi-family properties.
What was their question? question.
I have just a quick question, if I may. The elevation of the homes seen from Willow Road, do you anticipate that the materials and the colors, et cetera, will be uniform like shown, or would they be a variety of designs and colors?
The goal is to have it not just one monolithic look, but in keeping with the overall development of the site. So we do not have final colors selected as of today, but I'm sure it will in keeping with the overall development.
Yeah, just some variable tones and colors and things. So
Without a doubt, and part of this, as you can see, it's a little tough to see on the elevation, but there are materials that are in keeping with the larger buildings. So you'll see some of the similar masonry details at the bottom, as well as some of the siding and colors in there.
And where are you going with rents on these? What are we looking at, Brad? What kind of a market are you targeting?
So what we're targeting is something in keeping with the reserve at Greenfield. So again, the rents are, we have studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units in the design here. Obviously, the townhouses are designed as 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath with the parking underneath. So really caters to a wide variety of residents within the community and thinks serves a very good need for housing to be able to provide that.
Questions? Lighting along Willow and Greenfield, lighting that path. Are we looking at some sort of, walkway, path lighting? We're looking at street lighting. What are you thinking? What are you contemplating?
I don't have that specific detail with me right this second. If it were my preference, it would be more of the bollard lighting, low level along Willow Road that would not intrude entirely on the overall back door of the townhouses, if you will.
Yeah,
Complying with all appropriate photometric requirements.
Yeah. Still keeping in mind that the ag zone is just north of that, and not wanting to throw a whole lot of light into that, keeping in character with it. But obviously, you're looking at adding hundreds of citizens, residents to this area now. That path will definitely get used by the locals in that neighborhood and others as well too. So making it safe as well. Okay.
We're talking about the layout, the style of the buildings. You had conversations with Conestoga Valley School District.
We did. We actually had a wonderful meeting with the school district. They came and met with us, I believe it was about a month and a half ago. And they were very positive with regard to the overall plan in terms of looking at the school age children that projects such as this generates. We looked at some of the statistics, most recently the reserve at Greenfield. We have less than 2% of our units have school age children in them. The crossings at Conestoga Creek, which is not in a different municipality, but again, I think we are at 1.8% school age children in terms of the number of units. So they were really happy with us engaging them and having the conversation, as well as, most importantly, they were interested in understanding the schedule and making sure that they understood the timeline, which we shared with them based on what we hope to achieve.
Are you able to talk about the timeline? Like, will the extension be complete out to Jefferson before this is complete, or how does that compare with that?
So the short answer is our hope is that the timing of the Walnut Street extension would be complete when the overall project would be complete for construction of the first 4 buildings. That is a public-private entity, so I cannot speak to.
With respect to Walnut Street, we're hoping to let the contract the summer to fall of next year. One of the key components in this is getting that project done prior to the women's open in 2024. So the schedule, and Tony has this, I think, embedded in his mind right now, is the construction with conclusion end of 23, spring of 24, women's open.
Tee off time.
2024.
Tee off time.
I would only add, the start for Walnut Street should be for the north side, which is moving along very nicely. May, June, so I would say late spring, early summer, 22, start 18 months construction duration. So we want to wrap up by November 23, plenty of time for the May 27. U.S. women's open start.
And then you would
How does that
look,
correlate then with this project?
yeah,
as
how
far
would
as
that line up
completion?
with this, Tony?
It'll line up very well. So the start date would be comparable. We're moving on this site, which needs that by a month or two. 18-month duration here, but Walnut Street, as I mentioned, this project is going to be this tax. The first building one closest to, building 4, and which is the smaller L-shaped building to the north of the town. That will be one of the first delivered clubhouse, one of the first. Then we'll walk back up towards the road, so that first large U-shaped building, exactly the red showing.
First, second. Okay. So you think those 5 that you just pointed to, Brad, would be finished about the same time as Walnut Street finishing?
Approximately.
Yes.
Okay.
So the overall duration for, the current thesis and what we've gotten from our construction team is that the overall construction for those first 5 buildings would take 24 months. So from start date, if you're talking about a Q2 next year in an ideal situation, that would allow us to theoretically be able to deliver those 4 buildings by Q2 of 24.
Can I ask that question a slightly different way?
Go ahead.
What's the projected date to rent the first unit? Before or after Walnut Street's done?
Oh, it's before.
It would likely be before. I just don't know
It's
how many
before,
months.
yeah.
prior.
Before or after is all I was asking.
It's before, yeah, no
The
doubt.
first occupancies could take place just prior to be the balance of the overall site.
Fall of 2022, the latest is someone moving in there.
It would, 23.
2023.
Fall of 23 would be sort of when we'd be looking at our first occupancies.
The other component, we're very closely with staff. We probably Walnut Street, Greenfield, and we have a developers agreement in place that said we'll do studies by the end of 2022, and do that by 2025. What Kai has done is they authorized TPP to initiate both the design and the permit for that intersection in October of this year. So it's going to take about a year to get through the design permitting. That'll be in advance. They will authorize TPP. So we'll be working on that, have that in place. We don't want to be working on both projects at the same time. Of the intersection of Greenfield and
Hempstead.
and Walnut Street extended. So what we're doing is trying to talk through this the best we Awesome. Got a lot of work. Walnut Street, all the funding is in place. And we're anticipating that letting the contract in summer, fall next year. Right at the same time, we should have pretty close to the permitting in place for Greenfield.
Letting the contract summer or fall of next year for what?
Walnut Street.
Not spring.
I mentioned our schedule shows a May, June. I'm not always. I know that's good. So that's a May, but it's a
Summerish of 2022. Hempstead and Greenfield gets done in 2022.
Design permit. Take about
A year. Understand. First tenant moves in fall of 2023. Walnut Street's completed spring of 2024.
And that permitting won't be stale in 2025?
Even there, announced traffic planning design. So once we would, as Morgan Tony described, we anticipated we initiate design October of this year, about a 1-year permitting process. So issuance of permit in 2023. Permit is valid for 1 year, and then you get 2 1-year extensions on top of that. So upon issuance, you have essentially 3 years to build the project. So until it's issued in 2023, we would have actually until fall of 2026 under the approval.
Our agreement right now requires that be done.
Staff would feel much more comfortable if we had a more thorough understanding of the timing of the completion of units and the rental of them. And how many are going to be occupied when during that period of time.
To better manage the impact upon Greenfield Road as it relates to Walnut Street Extension and that being a relief. And then finally, last concern being Greenfield and Hempstead, obviously playing into all of that.
Right, so Walnut Street's not going to be done in advance of all these. So, when are these going to be occupied? What impact is that going to have on Greenfield and Hempstead, depending upon how many units are occupied before Walnut Street's complete?
So Walnut Street's complete in May of 2024. And 9 months before that, we're starting to let tenants at the new facility. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Our schedule does show November of 2023 for Walnut Street completion. So the outside view that is keep in the back of our mind, in the front of our mind, with definitely must guide. Spring. But the schedule is showing the fall, November of 2023.
The one thing that we look at the traffic study, look at the levels. I always say this to Eric, his colleagues, to a certain extent, is the side. Okay. So we looked at the trip generation for the multifamily, and we really thought it works very well together because the bulk of the traffic leaving if Walnut Street's not done will be heading
South on Greenfield.
the other traffic coming to work at Greenfield will be heading the other way. And in the evening, you have the reverse. So if there is that gap period, when things are working through but not yet in place, the traffic that's generated by these units will in essence complement the flow that goes the other way. And I try to get as practical as I can with respect to some of this, not look at, are we looking at the overall intersection, the approach of the intersection, where's the traffic gonna go? Where's the traffic it's coming from? And if we're bringing the traffic, Walnut Street is not open, it's coming off 30 this way. And the units will be going the other way. So we're not adding to the one and compounding the issue.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time, Tony and Brad and Eric and Dave have spent an awful lot of time trying to make sure all these puzzle pieces work, not only for us, but for the township.
Okay.
When, in all your great minds put together, do you see anything that would, do you see anything that would delay the Walnut Street extension?
No.
Because if that gets delayed for any reason, I mean, I personally will get shot if we put more traffic on
Greenfield.
On Greenfield. I mean, I know people that live there, and when they hear about this project, they say, you guys are nuts, that Greenfield can't handle it. The other problem is, not all these people are gonna go on Greenfield, they're gonna go out Willow Road. And Willow Road is a problem too. So what's gonna happen at Willow Road and Horseshoe?
We don't see the traffic. I mean, we see the traffic, Greenfield, when Walnut Street is open. I mean, I think that's the lion's share of the traffic. That is the traffic. I don't see anything that's going to delay it. It's a PennDOT partnership. We all know what that is. We're doing everything we can to deliver it within the time frame that I mentioned. Or that time frame, I think working with you as collaboratively as we have with the township. We'll balance to get that done. And it'll get done. I feel good about it. The insurance policy we have is what was mentioned about Hempstead Road. We in advance of the agreement that we have, we release the TPE. That it's the right thing to do to begin the time of the dual and address that situation. So it's all moving, it's all coming together. The big picture, the details that are all coming together.
I don't, I'm with you, I understand. And I think the public has the right to know that we're asking these questions, looking after it. I don't know, Glenn, that it's feasible for us to delay, Ralph. I don't know, I'm just concerned about trying to stamp everything as definitively going to happen and every domino fall. I just don't know if that's feasible. Tony, you said, it's drop dead date is spring of 2024 for Walnut Street, but plan is fall of 2023. It is very feasible. It could get pushed back, Glenn, into February, March, or April of 2024. It definitely could.
What if for some dumb reason, the Walnut Street extension, who knows what could happen, gets delayed for a year? We can't have this project if Walnut Street's not extended. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We're talking hundreds of cars on Greenfield Road.
So you have, that's the point. You've got Hempstead. You've got the real lights on Hempstead, which really address.
Right, but I'm thinking I feel like there has to be some kind of stopgap. If for some reason Walnut Street extension gets paid, and I'm believing you guys it's not going to be, but then we're going to have to hold this project off, maybe build part of it till that gets finished. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but
So your concern, Glenn, just so I can summarize it, would be is the traffic that's now on that's when this is opened up, the traffic that's on Greenfield, is significantly backed up because there's no relief valve there. I mean, technically, there is a bit of a relief valve that I'm not sure that people will think of when they move into this, but it is there. And that is, Pitney, you come all the way back around behind Lowe's and Costco and you come right up to McDonald's at the traffic light. Once again, I don't know that they think about it right away, but in my head, I'm thinking immediately, that's where you relieve people from Greenfield Road, getting them on to Pitney, coming out to Costco, out to McDonald's there, and then they can catch the bypass there. Mark, you were going to say something.
Now, Glenn, I understand. Biggest issue that funding's in place, not only for the road. Have the funding in place. The trail where this project should be built at one time, by one contract, one contract. And that is critically important. And a lot of people, county specifically, have spent a lot of time working with Stroud and Terra and Township and the county to get this on the tip. Where it's not only the project is funded, but the trailhead part. So things can happen, but we try to anticipate what they would be. I think we try to.
Part of the reason I was asking about the timing of occupancy and giving us a better understanding of that is that part of the Walnut Street project is the intersection of Ben Franklin and Greenfield and signalization of that. So that's not going to be in place until the end of the Walnut Street project. So we're going to have a lot of these units in place trying to use that intersection. I'm concerned about safety at that intersection if there's no signal there. And there's a lot of traffic coming out of the development trying to turn left on Greenfield Road in particular. If they go out, out to Willow and are turning right, to get the horseshoe, right turns aren't as much of an issue, but that particular location's not going to be complete until Walnut Street's complete. So I don't know how many units you're planning to have occupied before that point in time and whether or not I should be concerned about that because I don't have that information.
You're saying first tenant fall 23. That's first tenant of 617.
That's correct. So our current thought process is for the first L-shaped building to the north, building 4. That's approximately a 15-month construction for those units to deliver. So by the time they deliver, then you have to lease them up, get it occupied, and then.
And that's 100 units?
56 units.
56.
And then the second building would be the second small building, which would be a second 56 units. Again, this is not set in stone, but approximately 3 months thereafter would be that building completion.
So the first one is sometime fall of 2023. You've got tenants that are moving in 56. And then 3 months later, you've got the next one.
And not all 56 move in day one. So it
over a
depends
period
on-
of 4 months or so at the end of 2023, we're getting 112 units coming online.
Correct. And then the 2 larger buildings would be the 2 final to deliver. And again, our current understanding, barring any unforeseen issues with supply chain and COVID and everything else that's going on in the construction marketplace, that this is a 24-month process to build out those first.
Those 2 larger.
Correct.
24 months
from start.
Puts it into Walnut Street extension
It would put it
completion
into
timeline.
the summer of 2024 for completion.
Okay.
So potentially a couple hundred units trying to use that intersection without a signal.
Okay. Questions?
How do you resolve that? Can the signal be over that? I mean,
There are temporary signals. You still have to go to PennDOT to get a permit for them. There have been occasions where I've seen temporary signals put up.
How many units are in the reserve
There are 82.
82. We didn't, yeah, I don't see any. I have my doubts that they'll hit some of these timeline numbers and they're unknowable at this point. I'm more confident Walnut Street gets built by that time period than all of those do.
All the numbers that we're looking at, we didn't take any credit for people who are going to be working from home, which is happening. Any credit for anybody walking over to college outside, or any credit for anybody
Working in Greenfield.
So there's going to be a combination. It's going to happen over time. We can't invest this type of money and have a condition on the certificate of use. From a financing perspective, business management perspective, it's just not feasible. So we try. We also have to answer to our tenants. I know you guys have to answer to residents. And we try to put ourselves in the shoes between mending Greenfield Road, Hempstead, authorizing that to proceed next month, and then all the hard work that's gone into what's Walnut Street extended. Knowing that needs to be done prior to 2024. Plan.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. We don't want to have either an unsafe, inconvenient situation out here. We've studied this quite a bit.
So if there's 112 units that potentially go online in that fall, 2023, there's 112 and there's 2 cars per, it's 224, and 90% use Greenfield in the morning, all leaving, going at the same time. That's 201 additional cars on Greenfield for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that's 90%. And they all, that 90% all goes that way, as opposed to Willow or Willow to Creek Hill to go over to Leola or to go to Ford, New Holland, or, I mean, it's a big plan. It is a big plan. I understand that. But I just don't have that strong a reservation for the timeline.
I think my view is the incentive is for the developer to get it done so that their tenants aren't screaming at them. So the incentives, I think, are properly aligned to get this done appropriately.
I agree. Some good summary. I agree.
My only other question is about park and open space. So whenever you want to get to that.
I'm sorry, is what?
Open space.
I know, I want to get to that. I wanted to ask, let me ask you a question about parking. You mentioned the underground and we can see the surface and so forth. One of my personal evolving perspectives is that, over the past 30 to 40 years, Mr. Traffic Planning and Design, we just have put in so much asphalt. I mean, it's shocking. Go up to Walmart. I could put another Walmart in the parking lot where Walmart is and still have parking. I mean, it's just ridiculous the amount of asphalt we've put in all over these places. I don't know. Is this?
Yeah,
it's probably in line with our requirements, but
it's over. Like, I think our requirement is 1.5 spaces per unit, and they're proposing 2. My reading is correct.
We looked at the total parking for the multifamily community center. We actually asked part of this application not to park the community center. It's only to be used by the residents that are there. So they'll either be walking to the community center, or if they're driving to the community center, they're going to open up the parking. So your ordinance permits up to a 20% reduction for joint parking. We're simply asking for a 2.3% reduction, not the park community center, in addition to the multi-family.
All right, all right. Are these numbered spots? In other words, if I have apartment 6 in unit 2, is there a parking spot 6 or not?
Typically, the surface parking outside of maybe a couple spaces that are reserved by main entry doors, most of them will be open. And then it'll depend on, we try to have a balance of parking around the building so that you're proximate to an entry, to an elevator or stairwell to get into the building and closer to your unit, more proximate. And then obviously there's the parking underneath the buildings, which would have direct access to the elevator and to get upstairs to their floor.
Okay, I just read that. That's at page 3 on there. I'm with John. I think you could have less parking.
Okay.
I'll trust you guys as the planners and the developers to do it, but that would be my thought.
Yeah, what are you finding at the reserve as far as number of cars per unit?
We're finding that we have adequate parking. I believe as part of the original land development plan, there was a section that was tabled or deferred to be built in the future. If that's correct, Tara?
That is.
And since then, since we've been in operation, we have not needed those additional units. So the parking has been adequate.
Yeah. Okay. Parks and open space. I think we need to have a conversation about that. This is huge. This is a lot of acres. And as you know, our ordinance suggests something fairly significant. We, over the years in working with the high companies on the build out of Greenfield, we've gotten creative in what we've called parks and open space. The way we've used the green spaces within and so forth, and pathways and things of that nature. I think staff is certainly looking at our ordinance and what it would probably call for. I guess we'd like a conversation. Where could this go? And what you guys could see us as a community presenting to the citizens, the residents, the taxpayers as a fair and equitable plan for managing the parks and open space requirements.
So the approach we took, if you were referring to the Saldo open space requirement, which on this site would require 16 acres plus or minus set aside for open space. So on a 28-acre site where we're achieving a density of 20 units per acre, stated goal, the township goal confers additional density, higher density, the county goal. That's just not feasible on the site. So what we'll be told is recognizing the community-wide, the campus-wide open space, which is considerable, as you know. We've tabulated over 44 acres of open space that includes recreational space, walking, pavilion space, tennis courts. In addition, we're showing almost 10 acres of trail, 9.7 acres of completed trail within the campus. So these are major campus-wide amenities that I have constructed and developed over the years for the residents of the township, for the residents of Greenfield, and now for the residents of this community. I mean, that's what this is all about, tying it all together and using campus-wide open spaces. So we wanted to continue in that vein for this project. And that's the request that we have for you.
Thank you, Tony, for detailing that.
The other aspects of that is working with staff and
So the Greenway Trail plan,
Yes.
it was approved by this board.
That's been approved by the board. Specifically as to this project, this also has a swimming pool. So it is providing recreation, not only outdoor recreation, but the community center provides a component of the recreation. We've got the parent part that is to our.
Have you done a calculation of, if you look at the campus and how many units relative to the recreation space requirements?
That applies to residential.
Yeah.
Solar talks about residential, industrial.
Yeah.
There's a question about the industrial component because it doesn't create residents. We looked at the residential, looked at the acre, approved the plan that Terry's mentioned. And our proposal for this is a combination between repairing up for the on-site that we have to de-restrict, so it can't be changed to another non-recreational use. In addition of the trails and the sidewalks that are added to existing trails and sidewalks.
So Tony's comments were referring to the 9.7 acres total within the business park itself, Tony, correct? Okay. And then the 44 acres currently, once again, overall, the entire business park itself, 44 acres.
And I think that relates favorably to existing residential.
But you haven't done the calculation. So I was saying, have you done the math on that?
I'm sorry, I did not do but figured at least 615 correlate to this area was 50 acres.
Yeah, this would require 16 and a half, yeah.
I'm saying there's already existing residential units and there's existing recreation space. If I'm comfortable looking at the entire campus, but I'd want to see the calculation for the entire campus and all the units.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at this as the continuing build out of the business park campus and the amenities that have gone into it existing to produce parks and open space. You know, back to your point, Ethan, if the calculation for the whole campus, you know, is in line, I think we're continuing that same intention. If we don't have it in line, if we aren't currently in line, if adding this, and we take all of the residential that's in this campus, and we don't have sufficient acreage for the parks and open space, we got to look at, okay, what's the plan to get more of that? Glenn.
Well, all the recreational areas in the park, how long can that be continued to be used over and over again? I mean, every project that's been done in this whole area has used that as part of their.
Correct.
I mean, you can't keep using the same stuff over and over again. At
Correct.
some point,
That's
you
what I was
gotta-
saying, do the
That's what-
calculation for the whole campus.
So that's what Ethan is saying is we can't just recycle that as saying, well, that meets the requirements for this. Well, this added 617 units.
Right.
So, you know, take all of the residential we have in the business park and what does that calculation give us?
Just to be clear, the requirement in the ordinance is for residential 0.027 per unit, for non-residential 2.5% of the acreage. So are you talking about both? You're talking
Yeah,
about
both.
both.
Basically, what's the requirements of the ordinance? And then what's the total acreage?
Is it there for the business park already? You know,
Yeah.
if you put this into it.
Is the existing use already using up that, or is it not? Math problem.
No, I see I see your response, but you're going to come back and you're going to say, you need 107 acres.
They're gonna need a heck of a lot more acreage
And
than
the
what
board-
we're talking about for this
Exactly.
project.
But the board has utilized its discretion over the years to look at that and to work through it. But right now, we're suggesting these 615 dwelling units require 16.6 acres. And
They're providing.
what the applicant is saying is just, hey, we have 44 acres currently in Greenfield. We have 9.7 acres of trails. Can that account for, the community's requirements? And Glenn is saying, well, that has been used a lot. So when does that then suddenly become?
Every time there's been an expansion, that's been used.
And Ethan and I were saying, okay, well, let's start with at least what's the cap? What would it call?
The 2.95 acres, I think that, is that the proposal from High Associates as far as
What's on?
what is,
The plan has.
in other words, is the plan has 2.95 acres? Okay. And what are you including in that? What would be making that up?
And that is what meets the zoning ordinance requirements, the 2.95. So we are allowed to include a portion of the riparian buffer there. That is a very small portion of it. The riparian area is actually 6.5 acres, I want to say, and we can only count 1.6 of that toward the open space. So in reality, there's more open space than what is in that 2.95. So that's the riparian. And those numbers are coming off the top of my head, but we're close. We have a dog park located off here for the use of the residents.
Is that the darker green that shows up in the plan?
No, that's actually part of the riparian.
Well, I can see it on the plan I have. I can't see it.
It's got a little fenced in area
I
just
see
to
it.
the south of the main.
Mhm. Got it.
There's the community center, complete with the pool and the pool area. And then just part of the trail that winds its way along the riparian buffer.
Okay.
So that does not count all the other trail area. And like I say, those numbers were used to meet the zoning ordinance, so that's where we stopped.
Okay. Okay. Thoughts? With the applicant, direction, Ethan and I about.
Yeah, I did, but seems reasonable to take a look at this in the aggregate.
Glenn,
What was the question?
I said, any additional thoughts or remarks for the applicant to give them some direction on the requirements and the saldo for the parks and open space? Ethan and I have framed it as, the applicant is saying, hey, we'd like you to look at the entire business park, and we've got these 44 acres and 9 acres of pathways, and we're seeing this as part of the whole. And what Ethan and I are saying is, that makes sense. We see it as part of the whole, but come back to us. What does the calculation tell us per all of the requirements of the ordinance for the whole business park? What would parks, open space, recreation, what would that look like for this? If 44 acres has been, as you said, Glenn, has been brought up a number of times, where are we at now that we're reaching, the level of development we are? Dave is saying that makes sense to him to at least take this in terms of the whole aggregate and see what it is. And now, once again, Glenn, everybody, we have as a board allowed ourselves discretion then when an applicant comes in. So if the applicant comes back and says, we have to have 150 acres, I don't think anybody here is naive enough
But
to
then
think
we
we're
then we
going to
go back
require
and
that.
say, all right, you've got 3, we need 16. And what kind of, fee in lieu of that can we do?
Yeah, another concern I would have if I was my associates is, have I spent money already as fee in lieu of, and how does that weigh into this discussion? That would be another concern. So I don't know how difficult that would be.
So we could try to look at the campus, or we could say, what's the difference here? And come up with a number.
And what Dave is saying is keep in mind too, is what the applicant has done over the years is given in lieu of, as opposed to acreage. And Dave is saying, is that feasible? We could even calculate that and bring it in.
Should be able to.
I mean, this is the largest development we've had. It's massive. And so, we've got to think in terms of, the right way to approach this for both the community and the applicant.
We're comfortable in doing that. It's very reasonable on the part to say where you give it to us holistically. It's a condition to be in the environment. We have to satisfy and solve part of our creation. We would ask that the board conditionally approve the plan with that information and have a discussion. Whether it's already done, street extension, whether it is linear feet of the trails, the entire, but it's a map that we can do at this little time. Part of it's already been done with the open space plan. That's been approved by the board, so we can use that to build on.
Okay. Okay. Fair.
Good.
Applicant is asking us to consider a conditional approval with several items that were presented earlier. We would need to include those requests in a motion, but then also consider coming back with a presentation on a calculation of what the parks and open space and rec plan may be. Does that make sense? Okay, applicant, anything else? Staff? Anything else? Board members?
Well, I don't want to keep beating the dead horse, but I'm concerned about Willow Road. But I don't know what. I remember when the rear extension was added to the business park to Willow Road, it wasn't supposed to have impact, and the traffic doubled on Willow Road. And this is going to impact Willow Road. Even 1/8 of the people from this go the other way to work. They'll be on Willow Road. So it's going to impact Willow Road.
And Glenn, you're concerned specifically, you're saying that intersections on those?
I don't have any proposals. I'm just saying it seems like Willow Road is being completely neglected, and this is going to have a huge impact on that road.
Comments to that, Mark? Anything that you can offer?
We stop to look at this in isolation. Connected to Van Franklin Boulevard. We try to keep Willow Road character. Way it is. You set your window around, we talked about lighting connect to the ag ground to the north. The other impact, I think it's just one of traffic. And I agree with Chair's comment earlier. Use our best efforts to come up with timing, rest the difference. We can't slow this down to make sure that this happens first before this happens second, before this happens third. We know the planning has gone into street extension, acceleration of design, permitting for Greenfield, Hempstead. We believe this traffic will be addressed. We did the holistic, general comprehensive traffic study for the intersections that the township was agreed to as part of the Walnut Street extension. We got several developers to address this type of concern. Our hope is between what the applicant has done with all this plan and over the years, the relationship between my property and the township, that we be able to move forward with this project, part of this project.
Dave, further comments? Ethan?
I mean, I would agree that Willow Road is going to be impacted, but it's a road that's going to connect between 23 and Horseshoe. We've got some large parcels that are still zoned residential there. It's just going to have higher volume on it. But most of the traffic, I think, is going to take Walnut Street and Greenfield and Pitney.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think Mark said it very well. I don't want to be that whole side. I would only say Willow was not selected very much as part of the traffic study. Took a look at all these intersections that we talked about and have all that impact on Willow. Start under it with this project.
Okay. All right. So we've heard from the applicant. We've had significant board discussion now for an hour. Staff has made some comments and some recommendations. We have the township engineer review comment letter dated September the 9th. Is that correct, Ralph? Is that the one? Put one that's all over here. We've had the county planning commission, county planning department look at this dated July 16th. There are some comments on here. We've heard from the applicant that the site design commentary comments from county planning department that perhaps points number 1 and 2 are items that they feel that are just not they're not feasible, and they'd like us to consider removing those 2 comments. We've heard from the applicant that the DMA letter, the township engineer review of September 9th, that under waivers and deferrals, correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, just to make sure I'm capturing this, item number 3 and 4, the widening along Willow Road, in point number 3, that the board remove that completely, grant the okay. So applicant asking for a waiver of the widening of Willow Road, and that's in point 3. And in point 4, the applicant is asking that the curbing, is that Willow Road as well? Correct. Curbing at Willow, yes, correct, it is. That also be waived. Deferred. That's deferred. Deferred. So as per the engineer's comments, it would be deferred. Okay. Okay. Those are the 2 points, applicant, that I'm picking up on from the township engineer's review letter. Is that correct? Okay. In township, under subdivision and land development, page 7, point 8, the applicant is going to get back to staff and eventually to board with some calculations as to historic park, open space, and greenway requirements as to what those historic efforts have produced within the entire business park itself. And how those calculations may reflect upon what the board would consider for the same requirement for this plan. Correct way of stating it.
So the township engineers review letter indicates a recommendation that they be required to satisfy the park and open space requirements in the subdivision land development ordinance. If that's a condition of approval set by the board this evening, then they're going to have to, the applicant's going to have to come back with some proposal on how to satisfy that requirement. I've heard your discussion this evening. They'll have to decide how they respond to that.
Okay. Okay.
Look at the specifics as it relates to this. Look holistically what the business park provides. Either have the board say they're comfortable with what we're proposing, or if there's a discussion, we'll have a discussion.
Correct. Correct. Thank you,
I
Mark.
would only ask that we really try to remember that. I think that's what I heard.
No, I said the saldo.
Would it be multifamily?
That is the saldo requirement.
So, just to be clear, I think I know what you're.
That was the question that
I
Ralph
think I know
asked.
what you're asking, Tony, is Ralph is framing the condition in a way that you've heard the discussion of the board, and you'll come back with some recommendations as to how you might be able to satisfy the requirements of the saldo. The saldo for the business park would have required that we look at both the industrial and the residential.
Each individual industrial park, make them constructed, built. What we're going to do with this project is look at phase 3. Look at the requirements of the solar as it addresses phase 3. And as part of that, we're going to then bring into consideration what's been done in the business park. We'll be able to tell you what's been done by way of the trail system, by way of the open space that's there. Is open up the entire business park to projects that have been built, constructed, approved under the solar that's in place. But we'll have to take into consideration what's there and how we satisfy this comment as it relates to phase 3. It will provide some additional information on what's in the business park. And so you get the glass comment. We just can't continue to say, wait a minute, look over here.
Right.
So
I'm hearing.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is if you're wanting to apply previously constructed trail systems and parks and open space, then you need to do the calculation for previously constructed residential and industrial buildings in the entire business park. Or we can look at this project separately from that.
I would only say that, again, I hear where you're coming, and I understand maybe one too many times on this issue. But I think you have to look at, I think it's important to build out of the trail system, sidewalks through the campus. Didn't really relate to, wasn't so much tied to previous approvals and previous projects. That's an initiative that was undertaken to create connectivity and amenities within this campus. So I think we're maybe mixing things we're having this conversation. Because we got some facilities that are being added here as campus-wide. And what I'm suggesting is those
And what I'm hearing is the board needs to have you satisfy the conditions of the saldo for parks, open space, and greenway. To achieve that,
16 acres for a feed booth. If we're asking, that's where the discussion comes into place. Are we asking to utilize something that already has been utilized for another component of the business park? That's a discussion.
correct. Yep, correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
thinking, I don't have all the numbers, but we've definitely had this discussion before with different build outs.
Yeah. No, I think you've summarized it more
Yeah,
correctly.
I think you mentioned the 16.6 acres, which is the calculation of the 615 units times 0.027. And, but it's less than 14 acres. That's because you're offering.
You're offering
2.95.
2.95, so you're looking at somewhere around 13.
Buffer that David said.
Yeah.
Use certain to satisfy the zoning requirements for the open space, then on top of that, solar requirements. That's not, Stanfield, East Lamphere, Stanfield, West Lamphere, they all have similar structures, where you have a zoning component and then solar recreation.
Okay.
In addition to the zoning, 0.95, there's other acres, other open space acres that didn't qualify for the zoning, so it could be applied to this outlet. So we're above 295. Here. We need to do.
Okay.
Okay.
That was sort of the last condition, okay, that I was outlining there, guys. So I think I've summarized the issues.
On the Lancaster County, they want to drop 1 and 2.
I did begin my comments with that too, but thanks, Glenn, for bringing that back up. You have something else, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we're at on the parks and open space, quite frankly. I mean, what are you, Tony, are you saying that we're going to look at these trails that are in the middle of the corporate center and count them towards this?
The only point I was making is that there's, I think the figure of 2.95 acres thrown out there is satisfying. There's other open space on this property.
For this particular project. So if you look at this project and you come up with 6 acres minus 16, then we're looking at 10 acres. Okay, that's fair.
Yep, yes,
Yeah,
that was my understanding.
That's
Yep.
fine. I'm sorry. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks.
Did that clarify it?
It did.
Okay, so that, when you look at the DMA letter, the engineer's letter, that 0.8 was one we're conditioning. If we put a motion out, we're going to condition it, that be satisfied. And then that 0.3 and 4, we are suggesting, and the applicant is asking that 0.3 be waived and 0.4 be deferred as per the data. Okay. Tried to summarize it. I think it's in the notes and the recording. So what's your interest?
Do we have anybody online that?
No one in the chat, and we have no one by email.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Dave, for asking that. Appreciate that. Okay, board. What's your interest?
Do we need someone to repeat all that, or can we just do a so move? Because I'm happy saying so move.
Can we do it?
Just so move.
Based off of what John said, I mean, you could also just say yours was a motion. That's also perfectly fine. Or do you want someone to
The
repeat?
chair is allowed to make a.
All right. Okay. So I'll make the motion as my statement just summarized as per the David Miller Associates letter of September 9th, waiving 0.3, deferring and agreeing to 0.4 under waivers, modifications, and deferrals, 0.8 underneath the saldo requirements. Applicant will be getting back to staff and the board on how to satisfy the park, open space, and greenway provisions. and taking into account Lancaster County Department of Planning points 1 and 2 as relates to access to townhouses on Willow Road and the pathway continuing along Willow Road, removing those 2 points. Second. Okay, been
I'm sorry, for staff's benefit, I just want to make sure that it's clear that with respect to the park and open space, the applicant's required to satisfy that condition as listed on the township engineer's letter. To satisfy the.
If I
park and
didn't
open
say
space.
that, that's what I meant. Yes, correct. 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 September 9, 2021. Striking 1 and 2. Okay. That's
my understanding.
Yep. That's the motion on the table.
Second.
Seconded by Ethan. Okay, motion by John, second by Ethan. Okay. Discussion of the motion. Glenn, anything? Nothing at all.
Let me just make sure that we have the motion, Terry.
The 9/9 DMA letter,
Correct.
number 3 waiver,
3 waiver,
number 4 deferral.
4 deferral.
All other mods per the letter.
Correct.
Saldo number 8, the applicant will get back to staff and the board to satisfy the condition. LCPD 716, remove number 1 and 2, remain their stay.
Correct. You were
Okay.
good. Did you write all that down? Fantastic. Nice capture. Thank you. Okay, the motion is on the table, has been seconded by Ethan. No further discussion and questions. Okay, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Fantastic effort. It will continues to move forward in the 50-year vision of what the High family presented to us in 2013, 2014.
Yeah, it's going to be a great project.
Thank you, guys. Okay, item number 6C. Staff, you ready to move on? Okay.
Yes.
6C, 2021-19, Darren Phillips, 2939 Lincoln Highway East, sketch plan and time extension. Is there anyone here for this or anyone on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom. for
No one
this.
on Zoom. Okay, Ralph, do you want to?
I'll move to deny.
Put a motion on the table from Glenn to deny.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Glenn, seconded by Dave. Any comments, questions? Hearing none. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. 6D, 2021-24, Sylvan Fisher, 2816B, Irishtown Road, deferral to Laycock Township. This is not really in our town. I mean,
No,
mostly in Laycock Township.
Motion to defer to Laycock.
Okay, motion has been made by Ethan to defer to Laycock Township. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Glenn. Comments or questions about the motion? Hearing none. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7 action items. 7A, an agreement with Lafayette Fire Company in reference to the 2021 Pierce Enforcer pumper. Ralph, we have to approve the modification, Superintendent?
It's not a modification, it's a new agreement. We've done similar agreements with these apparatus in the past, and so it's just following along with our practice of entering into these agreements. The agreement essentially indicates that the vehicle would become. Yeah, thank you. The percentage that the township funds would be returned to the township in the event in the future when it is finally sold or traded in. So it's consistent with the apparatus funding plan, and it just documents that with practice.
Good, okay. All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, the motion's made by Ethan. Is there a second? Seconded by Glenn. Questions? Concerns? Hearing none. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 7B, approval of the 2022 pension plans minimum municipal obligation calculations. And are we doing that, Ralph, because of the presentation that was tonight, or these two just come up together?
We just always do them together in September. The pension funding law requires that the township adopt the MMO in September of each year for the coming year. And so the calculations are done in accordance with the actuarial valuation requirements. Kevin has prepared the calculations. So assuming that the board approves of the calculations, we roll that into the budget process, make sure that we're funding the pension plans accordingly. The one thing I guess I would point out is on the non-uniform plan, we do have language in the agreement with our non-uniform union that we share in whatever the remaining expense is, the net expense after the state aid. So their contribution rate will increase from 2.05%, which is what it was in 2021. It'll go up to 2.76% next year. Essentially, we do the calculations, we estimate how much state aid we're going to get, and then the remaining amount is split evenly between the township and the non-uniformed employees. So that's what causes that change.
Is it the administrative expense percentage?
No.
Okay.
The line that says member contributions anticipated,
Yes.
that amount in there is based upon sharing the net cost of the plan.
Okay. Okay. Questions, concerns? Hearing none?
I guess the other thing I would point out is that these MMOs are slightly, the net cost of the township in 22 will be slightly lower than it had been in 21. Not a lot, but slightly.
We have just heard, obviously, a very favorable presentation for pension plans tonight. Our total fiduciary, our total that we are accounting for is how much? Man, that was the number.
The amount in the plan? 34
million.
In the pen, that's in the police plan.
It's in the uniform.
Yeah, and the non-uniform, we're close to 3, I think.
We're 37 million.
Roughly.
So we're at 37 million. How does that relate to other municipalities, Ralph? I'm talking about townships of our similar size across the state of Pennsylvania.
I don't know.
Oh,
In terms of how much they have in their pension plans.
Yeah.
What I am confident in saying is that the funding level of our pension plans is better than the vast majority of other municipal plans in the country.
Absolutely.
And much, much better than any of the state-funded pension plans.
Or any of the
I tried to
cities
avoid
like
that as a second municipality. Yeah, no, okay. All right, good. Thank you. Guys, any questions about the MMO? Okay, hearing none, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Glenn, seconded by Ethan. Questions about the MMO? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And motion carries. Ralph, welcome back. Manager's report.
Staff had prepared a update on our MS4 activities, and our efforts there continue. We did receive nothing formal yet, but an indication that we're likely to be subject to a DEP MS4 audit, and so we will be prepared to meet that challenge.
Where they think we're lying or what?
Quite honestly, I think they look at East Lampeter as being a good example of MS4 activity, and they would like to have something to demonstrate the EPA to say, yeah, we went and looked at these guys and look at the great job they're doing and get the EPA off their back. That's my belief. I can't prove that, but that's my feeling.
I would have a similar concurrence of feelings.
Well,
We'll see.
good. Anything else?
On the Route 30 streetscape plan, we continue to work on the priorities as set by the plan and the board. We do have a meeting scheduled for later this week on the trail project between Stratford Pike and Oakview Road. We did meet with, or township staff did meet with PennDOT regarding other projects, and they want the township to enter into a new agreement that they've created, traffic signal maintenance agreement, which they're asking all municipalities to enter into. Anybody who has a traffic signal in the state, whenever they're changing something, that's requiring that this agreement be put in place before they'll issue any more permits. So we've been going back and forth, I should say Tara and Charlie and others, because I've been out, have been going back and forth with them on a number of concerns that we have about the language that's in that agreement. And they've indicated that they're willing to make some changes. So we're waiting to hear back from them on what changes they're willing to make to address our concerns. So that is ongoing, but it will be important that we get that resolved so that we can get permits issued to the township for the streetscape projects that we want to complete. Regarding the intersection improvement project at 896 and 30, PennDOT has indicated that they will include the upgraded crosswalks, the material and design that we have, as well as the decorative traffic signal equipment, which will include getting rid of the span wire arrangement down there to have everything on poles and mast arms. And most recently, they've also indicated that the township will not be required to contribute to either of those components of the project, which we were very glad to hear. So, yeah, it was not expected, but we're
Did we
thankful.
on the one at Oakview?
We did. They didn't do anything decorative as far as the poles there, but we paid, I should say, the township paid for the crosswalks when that project was done.
So we're not going to have to.
So they've said that they're going to include that in the project. We don't have to contribute to it. So, yeah, other private projects continue and continue to include the improvements that are on their plans. So we're still making progress.
Any movement on Rockville? Have you heard anything? We've not been kind of quiet all through last year.
Correct. And it continues to be quiet.
Okay. All right. They're a biggie. Okay. Any questions for staff? None. Hearing any. A motion for adjournment. Second. Moved by Ethan, second by Dave. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.